Hi Class G! Today we're going to carry on with Letters from the Lighthouse and we are on page 124. Though I didn't know how or when his family had died, I understood what it felt like to lose someone. Yet to lose all your family at once must be terrible, and sadness welled up in my throat. He had no one left. We had our mum, and even then it still hurt knowing Dad would never be back. No wonder poor Ephraim never smiled. Mr. Spratt clapped his hands for quiet. I'll be visiting Mr. Pengilly directly to inform him of my plans. Good luck, you'll need it, said Jim, shaking his head. The crowd dispersed soon after that. Glad to be going home, we walked down the hill, falling back into an ever gloomier silence. Home. I'd already started thinking of the lighthouse in that way. Poor Ephraim. It must be 100 times worse for him and Pixie. Nor could I believe Mr. Spratt could get rid of a lighthouse, or indeed how he'd do it. Yet who'd have thought they'd evacuate all of the zoo animals out of London, or the famous paintings from the National Gallery? And what about us school children, sent from our families to the middle of nowhere? If you had a family, from what Queenie had said, Esther didn't even have that. All sorts were happening because of this war, not to mention missing sisters and codes I couldn't break. There was so much I still didn't understand. Maybe it was possible to remove a lighthouse, though I still wasn't sure how. The first thing to disappear was the light itself. Starting that night, Budmouth Point Lighthouse, the sea and the quicksands were to remain in absolute darkness. As promised, Mr. Spratt came in person with the news, but didn't even stay long enough to sit down. Ephraim accepted his duty with a heavy heart, saving his true feelings for when Mr. Spratt had left. What a stupid idea, he raged. Doesn't he realise how deadly this coast is? We're protecting no one by keeping the light off. There were other plans too, which Mr. Spratt was not yet at liberty to share. It sounded ominous. Though I tried not to, I imagined awful scenes of people taking down the lighthouse brick by brick. I didn't like to say I'd only ever seen fishing boats go by. The coastline might be dangerous, but it was also very quiet. Whoever used these waters, and someone did because the radio was often busy, was obviously doing so out of sight from us. Cliff went to bed early that night. Knowing I'd not sleep, I stayed by the stove trying to read, but my mind kept jumping in and out of the story. That word, erase, really bothered me. As if you could just wipe out a person's home and move them on somewhere else and expect life to pick up again as normal. Being evacuated had felt like that. You just had to get on with it and try to fit in. The kinder transport, though, must have been so much worse because on top of everything else, Esther had to learn a new language and new customs, which would have made the fitting in part doubly hard. I shut my book with a sigh. I was trying to understand her. I really was. It wasn't surprising she was angry. Difficult, Mum would say. I wondered what Esther thought of me. Was I annoying? Quiet? Maybe. Or was the uncomfortable truth that perhaps from Esther's viewpoint it was me who was the angry, difficult one?